Hi, I'm Donna Grisham, and I would love to tell you my story. When I was 16 years old, I went to a bowling alley with a friend, and at the bowling alley we met these two guys, and we ended up, she wanted to go riding with them. She really liked one. She wanted to go riding with them, and so before I had went to the bowling alley, my grandmother had told me, don't leave the bowling alley without permission, or unless her parents came to pick us up. Well, she kept talking to the guy, and then she came over to me and she said they want us to go riding. I told her, I said, I can't do that because my grandmother, will get really upset at me, and I don't want to make her upset. My grandparents were really good to me and they loved me, but they were strict, and so I ended up giving in to the peer pressure, and I went with her and the other guy, and we went and we were going riding. And we actually, when we, a little ways into the drive, they said that the other guy, the guy that she was with, had to pick up his truck. And so we went to pick up the guy's truck. And when we stopped to pick up the truck, I actually got out of the truck and was getting out with her. And she said, no, she said, just he'll take you back to the bowling alley. And I was like, I don't want to. And she said, you'll be okay, he'll take you back. And so I went on and I stayed. I didn't know what else I could do. And he ended up driving a little ways and pulling down an alley and actually raped me right there in the front seat. And when he finished, he actually just pulled off and started driving, and then he pulled over on the side of the road and actually dropped me off on the side of the road, and I had to walk back to the bowling alley. And I walked back, ended up getting back to the bowling alley, and when I got back to the bowling alley, my friend and that other guy was there, and I walked in and I had been crying and been like I had, from falling on the gravel and all, I had skipped my arm. And so I walked in and she walked up to me and she said, what's wrong with you? And I stormed through ran to the bathroom, and as I ran in the bathroom, she came in behind me and she said, what's your problem? And I said, he raped me. And she said, oh, just say what it really is. It was consensual. And I turned around, I looked at her and I said, no, he raped me. And she said, oh, it's consensual. Don't even go there. And so my first thought was, wait a minute, she doesn't believe me. And the guy, before he dropped me off, I didn't say this, but the guy before he dropped me off, he said, you're not going to breathe a word of this to anybody, because if you do, he said, nobody's going to believe you. He said, besides, you are the one that's going to be in trouble. He said, your grandmother, you'll be in trouble with your grandmother. He had listened to the conversation that I had had with my friend at the bowling alley. Well, after that, I ended up finding out later on, because I had by the time I got home and took a shower and I just wanted to forget everything. I got in the shower and I just let the shower run over me, and I don't know, I know I had to be in the shower for at least 30 or 45 minutes, maybe even more. And I just kept crying and crying and crying, and I said, I knew I couldn't say anything, because if I said something, I'm the one it was my fault. It was my fault because I had really disobeyed my grandmother, and so I buried everything. And not too much later, I found out I was pregnant, 25 weeks pregnant, and I ended up going to have an abortion. I was taken to have an abortion at a clinic in Birmingham, Alabama. I went to a Planned Parenthood clinic in Birmingham, Alabama, and I had what they called a saline solution my mother actually took me, and I'll go God's already, we've went through the forgiveness part. I won't even have to go through that. So I ended up going through a saline abortion, and after that I was at the hospital. I ended up they injected the saline solution, and the baby drinks that, and it burns the baby from the inside out. And so I ended up having to go deliver, because at the Planned Parenthood clinic, they don't tell you that you're going to deliver a baby. They actually tell you that it's a blob of tissue, and you're thinking it's going to be like passing a blood clot. And so I went and I had to deliver a 25-week-old baby, and the nurse forgot to pull the curtain to, and I actually looked over and I saw my baby in a jar, and I commenced to screaming, and from that point on, I totally lost everything. I went into a mode of, I was living to die. If I could find every way, I would end up in the hospital after that, trying to commit suicide every time. I couldn't even do that right. I was just a mess. And so I end up pregnant again, and I ended up going to have another abortion. I know most people think that's horrible, and I thought the same thing. I ended up having a suction abortion, and at that time, at the point that they turned the machine on, when they turned that machine on, a light came off inside of me, and I started screaming, "Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off." They didn't turn it off by that time. It was too late. So we're going to fast forward years on to the point where God brings healing to me, and I've gone through, I went and had talked to the father of the second baby, and we actually had, God just healed the relationship, our friendship actually, because that's what it was meant to be in the beginning. The devil tries to distort things in our life. And so we ended up, connecting, and God just blessing our friendship, and he's like a brother to me. But anyway, I end up going, and I'm pregnant for a third time. And I know most people are going to go, "Oh my goodness." You got to realize I was living to die. So I wasn't really thinking about what I was doing, my life. I had no purpose, no rhyme or reason for even being here. And so I ended up going to PTL. I found out I was pregnant, talked to a pastor, ended up going to PTL and to Heritage Home for the young girls. And I ended up, I ended up keeping that baby. And so I have in 2011, actually in 2011 was when I ended up going to talk to the father of the second baby. And so we went and I talked with him. After I talked with him and God did the work in that relationship, I ended up driving back to Georgia, to Brunswick, and I ended up sharing my story at the Right to Life rally in Brunswick, Georgia at the City Hall. And then I shared my story again at my church. And a week later, after I shared my story at the church, I was in Jacksonville, Florida. I was actually sitting on a couch, and there was a couple of women, and we were just worshiping. We were worshiping the Lord, and I had my eyes closed, and I was just worshiping God. And I actually was translated to heaven, and I was actually on this park bench, and I was so taken with this park bench. I was looking down and looking all around it, because it's like nothing I've ever seen. There was gold on it, it was beautiful. And all of a sudden, the grass was beautiful. There was flowers. There was like a flowing river. And all of a sudden, a little girl and a little boy came running up to me. They climbed up in my lap, and they started kissing me, one on one cheek, one on the other cheek. And they started telling me, "We forgive you, Mommy, we forgive you, Mommy, we forgive you." I said, "We love you, Mommy, we love you, we love you." And they said, "We'll see you again." And instantly I was back on the couch. And I can actually, when I tell that, it's like I feel their kisses. I knew their little lips kissing my cheeks. And I just want to say, if you're a woman, and if you've had an abortion, and you are struggling with knowing where your babies, if your babies are okay, I just want you to know that Jesus wants you to know that your babies are with Him, and they're being well took care of. In fact, they're enjoying heaven so much that they're actually praying for us. Our babies in heaven are a part of the great cloud of witnesses, and they're up there and they're praying, and they're praying for freedom for you, and they want you to know that they love you, that they forgive you, you're forgiven. And I just pray, and I ask the Lord to just heal every wound, every place, every hurt, and remove, I ask the Lord to just remove every part of shame, that He will just strip you of the shame that's been put on you, and that He would clothe you in a robe of righteousness, and you will know that you are going to see your baby again in heaven.